Welcome to The Entrepreneurial Engineer. I'm Darren Flynn. The Entrepreneurial Engineer was really just an idea to get stories out there from engineers and entrepreneurs and try and get more inspiration, particularly in the younger engineering space. Some of the stories that I get out of these podcasts inspire me to be better. I take notes. I get something out of them. If you're listening to this podcast, just know that I'm working tirelessly to try and get better guests, better sets, and more fun, exciting interviews direct to you. Only 36% of people like and subscribe these videos. So if you can please like, subscribe, and even share on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, any social media platform, I would super appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for listening. So welcome to the Entrepreneurial Engineer podcast. Today we've got Stephanie Nguyen with us, Master of Achievement, background commerce, engineering, and all out, mentor and coach in the industry. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so good. So I just want to know, tell me right now, what mission are you on? What gets you up in the morning? What's your get it done moment? You're fist pumping and high fiving. What is that right now? What's getting you up and keeping you busy?
You know what? I actually used to be someone who was really into the morning routine, like very, very, very routine. Like these are the steps. This is how I set my morning up, right? But recently, I would say over the last like 3 or 4 months, things have changed a lot for me. I've done a lot of different kind of coaching as well on myself, a lot of self-development, getting a lot deeper. So what that means for me now is my ability to coach with my clients and see like a possibility in them that and a belief in them that they don't have in themselves. That's actually honestly what gets me up in the morning. Like just seeing the transformation in terms of like what they couldn't do because they were fearful, not because they were incapable, but once they believed in themselves, once we removed these blockages, once we shifted and reframed perspectives, how quickly they move. And honestly, that is what fulfills me and drives me every single day.
Yeah, I love that. It's all about, hoping someone might listen to this conversation and they might get something out of it and help change someone's life or touched on them or, they had the courage or I'd say even the self-confidence to go for that promotion or to, ask for a pay rise or whatever it might have been. That's truly awesome. Tell me about that self-coaching thing because I think a lot of people are maybe not withdrawn from coaching, but they see it as something that, either I can't afford it, or I don't know what I'm going to get out of it. There's maybe a bit of an unknown. How did you sort of maybe come across going, okay, maybe I need to focus on myself before I can focus on others?
Yeah. So how I got into coaching or even self-development, right? Honestly, when I hear the word life coach, there's a bit of a negative, weird, like stigma to it. And I totally understand why, is because, in any industry, in every industry, there's always bad eggs that create a negative stigma. But for me, as you mentioned, I actually started off in commerce. I actually thought that I was going to be a management consultant. My dream was to work at KPMG. And after applying 3 or 4 times and getting rejected, and then getting accepted on the 4th one is when I realized that I really wanted to go into construction. And so because I felt like I started later in life, and restarting my career, that's how it felt to me. I also had this really big pressure that I put on myself to make sure that when I was entering the construction industry, I was well equipped. And also the experiences that had led me to joining construction and going back to uni and all of that sort of stuff. I worked in workplaces that were really, really horrible. Worked under managers who took advantage of my keenness and also my willingness to learn because I didn't feel or didn't see the value that I was bringing. And that was because I associated my value with my qualification at the time. I was like, well, I don't have a project construction degree. I have a commerce degree. I don't have any experience in this industry. I need to learn from people who are in this industry, and I'm like inferior, right? And so I was trying to absorb all of this information, but being in the wrong environment, they really took advantage of my keenness and my willingness to learn. So I guess a little bit of trauma being brought over when I did decide to go back and do the proper thing or get qualified so that I could work in tier 1, tier 2 organizations. I was just like, how do I redo this? This is my second chance at redoing my career. How do I develop myself so that I'm more confident, so that I don't go into these environments ultimately feeling like I'm inferior or not as valuable? What skills do I need to learn to really grow my career? And so I think all of those things then led me to going on Book Depository and trying to find a construction book. And that's how I came across Eleanor Moshe's book, which you've had her on the podcast.
Yes.
I read that book, and at the time she was doing career coaching in construction.
Yeah.
And it was such a refreshing perspective on life, not even just in terms of career, but this concept of taking accountability and responsibility for your life, not just in career, was a concept that I had never been exposed to before. And that just changed and shifted entire like beliefs in me, because then I started to see how unconsciously I was going, well, I can't do this because of dot dot dot. This happened because of dot dot dot. But it was never like, here's how I can actually take responsibility and accountability in this situation. And so I reached out to her. She was running a program, and it was the first time I invested in something like that, like a self-development program that cost a few $1,000s. And that was very scary to me, because as a uni student, you're just like, whoa, how am I, like, is this worth it? What is this going to do for me? But I think a lot of us also don't realize that a course, a bachelor degree, is $60,000, $70,000, right? And just because we're not paying the fee up front doesn't mean that we're not paying for it. And so when you put those kinds of things into context, you realize, like, if I'm actually willing to pay $60,000 plus interest for a degree, then, and to learn skills and courses and all that sort of stuff, why wouldn't I also invest that in my mind? Why wouldn't I also invest that in myself? And so that's actually how I got into self-development. And as you know, you go down the rabbit hole, and I started listening to Jay Shetty and Steve Bartlett and Mel Robbins and all of that. Like, this whole world of self-development opened up for me. But the greatest thing, and also the hardest thing about self-development, is there's no end. It's a long-term journey of finding yourself. And so if you had spoken to me last year, I would have been in a really, really different place to where I am right now. And so that's, like, for me, after having that experience, if you align yourself with the right coaches who have your best interest and just get where you're going, honestly, the growth that you'll have for yourself is just exponential. And I'm such a big believer in coaching and paying for mentors. You know, the most successful entrepreneurs all have mentors, all have coaches, all have advisors. And so for someone to be afraid of that, I think is really huge disservice that they're doing to themselves. And I don't say that just because I'm a coach, but because genuinely we're all learners, and we can learn from anyone and everyone, and it happens in any kind of form. But when we throw the word coach in and we put a dollar sign in, it really changes the context of things, which, my perspective on that has changed as well. You know, and for people who are kind of sitting there going, well, why would I pay like five, six, 7,000, 20,000, $50,000 to for a coach when I can do it myself, right?
Yeah.
And of course, you can do anything by yourself. Anything can be done by yourself. But the real question is, how fast do you want to move? How quickly do you want to condense your progress? You know, and
Mm.
what that money actually is when you exchange that, it's an activation, right?
Yeah.
When you pay for something, you're activated. You're going to show up with knowing that you've put something on the line and you're going to get everything out of that experience. And that's actually what the money exchange is. But if people can even think beyond that, it's like, what's the bigger picture here? And
Yeah.
that's really what coaching has become for me. And for me to be able to do that for my clients, like honestly, some days I get so teary because when they send me voice messages of what they've done and what they've been able to achieve and going like, oh my gosh, like I never thought that this would be where I would be. And I'm like, oh my God, this is, oh, you just feel so full.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, you touched on so many things. Um, and one thing that I wanted to talk about that you mentioned is value. And I see this all the time about getting I'll call students, mentees, colleagues, even younger engineers, younger professionals to really understand their value. And I think value for me allows people, if you can understand your value, then you know what you can bring. And if you know what you can bring, then you have that level of confidence. How do you help people find their value?
That's a really good question, right? And I think like when people say, how do I find my value? What's my value proposition? If people haven't done that level of self development, it's really easy to fall into um, a sense of entitlement, a sense of
Mm,
egoness. Like, hey, I'm valuable. I'm valuable here. I'm adding value to this context. You need to pay me this.
mm,
You don't see my worth? I'll take my value somewhere else.
yeah,
Right? So there's that box. But then there's another box where, and I love doing this with my clients, right? What is, and everyone will say this, like, what is the why? But
yeah,
sometimes people don't go deep enough. They go, okay, why do you think you're valuable? Oh, because I can do project management, because um, I'm really good at talking to subcontractors, because I can do the program and find the most efficient route. Okay, cool. But someone else can come in here and do that as well. What if
mm,
someone came in and do that as well? Then what is your value,
mm,
right? And so actually the value is you.
yeah,
The value is, and this is the craziest thing. I was recording a podcast episode yesterday, right? If you actually think about it, in this entire universe, thousands and thousands and thousands of years before us, and the thousands and thousands of years after us, there is never ever going to be another Darren Flynn. There is never
hopefully
going to
not.
be another person exactly like you who has had the exact experiences in the exact order, in the exact way, doing the exact same thing as you or as me, right? And when we come to understand the depth of that and knowing that there's literally only one of us, that's the value,
Yeah.
right? But then again, people get caught up in, well, how do I articulate my value? How do I tell people that that's my value? Because I don't want to go, like, you're not going to go into a work environment and be like, well, there's only one of me. So
Yeah, that's right.
you should pay me this, right?
Pay me more.
And sometimes it's not even about trying to articulate, but you just have to be. You have to be all of like who you are. And that's the value.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I think it's so hard because you're right. You've got, say, a younger professional may not know their value. They haven't done a lot of self development. There is that barrier to entry. And yes, I've seen it a lot around, that coaching cost, even if it is, less than, a pizza or it's less than, having a coffee every day or whatever it might be. But they see the dollar value and I think they go, oh, well, that's a barrier to entry. Now I'm scared. I don't know my value. I can't see what's on the other side. How do you break that barrier to go, well, this is on the other side? Because openly, I used to do a lot of free coaching calls, and a lot of the time you'd go through that, get some of the discovery about, yes, these are the things, and then, oh, there's a dollar value. Oh, yeah, okay, well, I can't afford that. How do you take people to see the other side? Because I think that that discovery is so important to, obviously not just convert, but also to help people. Because if you can't let them see a vision in themselves, then it's very hard to help people.
Yeah, yeah. And I totally agree, right? And I used to be in the same boat as well because I didn't think that my product or my service was valuable. I was always like, well, let me do a free call, let me do a discount, let me do a
Yeah.
whatever it is. But actually, we're doing a disservice to the client or to the potential client because what we're actually saying is we don't feel like you can afford this. We don't think, I don't think, like if I'm going, okay, let me give you a discounted price, what I'm actually saying is I'm not challenging you. Two, I don't believe that you have the potential to make this work.
Yeah.
And three, I'm actually not allowing you to activate yourself. And I'm not activating myself because I'm going to show up to these sessions knowing that, I could have paid more to give you this transformation, but because I've discounted my product or my service or my time, and not from a point of entitlement, but a point of
Mm.
activation, right?
Yeah.
Then I'm actually not serving you in the best way that I could. So when I'm in those situations, and I think it's really, I like to go back to, I guess, like, not even, I wouldn't even say uni students, but just people who are not in this self development world. The thing is, not everyone's going to get it. You're either called to look from within and do something more, or you're not.
Yeah.
And that's a simple truth. So for those who aren't called to look from within and they have this thought like, oh, I feel like there's more that I could do with my life, but what that is I don't know. I know there's so much potential in me, but how do I articulate that? How do I unlock that? I don't know, right? Some people just don't have that thought, and that's okay.
Mm.
But there's a lot of other people who do have that thought, but they go, nah, like I shouldn't explore that.
Yeah.
What does that look like? I don't know. Right. So when I'm in when I catch up with people with coffee, and to be honest, I see every interaction as a coaching session now,
Yeah.
right? Every opportunity when you speak to someone, when you meet someone, if there is a piece of information or a piece of insight that you could give to someone just to change the way that they're thinking, which I would say is coaching, I'm going to do it. Right. So
Yeah.
I even say this money challenge is an opportunity to coach them through that. Why are
Mm.
they scared of
Yeah.
that dollar figure?
Yeah.
What about that dollar figure really makes them freak out? Is it because they don't have enough money in their savings?
Yeah.
Why do they not have enough money in their savings? Is it because they're not good with their money?
Yeah.
Why? So like I always come at it from a place of curiosity, because if they haven't thought about it, they're going to keep continuing that pattern. So regardless of whether you choose to work with me or not, at least if I've helped you to question like your financial habits or the fears towards certain things, then at least you can either not take it away and continue what you're doing, or you can take that away and change the trajectory,
Mm.
right? But then also, what is that? What is the money? What is that? The money is actually there to activate you.
Yes. Make you
That's what it
accountable.
is.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're not exchanging or when you're not putting that money on the line, that means that you're not going to show up to this experience and this session wanting to learn anything. There's nothing challenging you, there's nothing putting you out of your they zone.
Mm.
So I always love to coach like my clients through that. And when you hold the mirror up to someone, they can either be like, oh yeah, I don't really like what I see, but I don't really want to face it and do anything about it. Now's not the right
Mm.
time. I'm
Yeah.
really busy. I've got a holiday coming up. I don't know if this is the right time for me. I don't know if this is valuable to me. Right. Or they'll be like, okay, let's go. I don't know how I'm going to make this work, but let's go. Right.
Yeah.
And I even take it a step further because I think and this is with anything, not just money, but when a challenge is so difficult, the automatic thing that our brain does is goes, oh, nah, like, no, I'm not even going to think about it.
Yeah.
But let's say I go, okay, for the next 3 months, it's $10,000, right? And they're like, fuck, $10,000. Oh my God.
Yeah.
No. Why, right? Is because one, you've probably never made a financial decision at $10,000, right? Which is why it's scary.
Yeah.
Two, how can we, like, if you actually did want to go ahead with this, how could we break it down? Very similar to a massive goal that we have, right? A massive goal. How do you break it down into small chunks, small manageable chunks to make it work for you? And as you kind of coach them through that and teach them that principle of breaking down a massive, scary thing into something that's more manageable, again, that's a principle that they take on with them in life.
That's right. They're learning something just by applying in the first place.
Exactly.
Mm.
So then when you think about it in that context, it's not about money, but of course money hurts when you separate with it. But if you can train yourself or change your perspective towards that excruciating pain and power that $10,000 has over you, isn't that powerful?
Yeah.
Like, imagine being in a position where like $100,000 doesn't make you flinch. $1 million doesn't make you flinch.
Yeah.
That's what you want to be. That's the position you want to be in. But you can't just start with 1 mil. It starts with the 5 or the 10K.
Yeah, exactly. So when you obviously you started out somewhere, tell me about how you started out and then how maybe you had some of those realizations early in your career. You talked about maybe you were taken advantage of, or you might have been in a situation throughout some of those stages of your career, but how did you start out? And then maybe take us on a bit of a journey, how you went through I'll say your chameleon pivoting stages of what was your early career.
I actually love that you use the word chameleon because it's so true, right? Like when you're not really sure of what you're doing and like your value, you do feel this chameleon character come on where you have to merge and um, camouflage into different kind of environments. But honestly, like I was that person who I always knew that I wanted to do something and that I wanted something more, but I really didn't know what that was. And that unknowing, that uncertainty really bothered me my entire life, right? Like I remember being in high school and sitting there and seeing these people, alumni come back and speak about their journey. And I'm sitting there like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I know that I want to do something, but I don't know what that is. And then adding another layer to that, there's so many things that I'm interested in. And it's like that created another level of confusion where I always felt like, well, it's wrong to want to do so many things, so that really bothered me. But I was always a very ambitious person, very, very curious. Ambitious in the way where it was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, so let me just try anything and hopefully something sticks, which I think is what a lot of people do, right?
Yeah.
But no one ever said to me like, Steph, it's okay to do multiple things. And so I went through life just going, I need to know what this passion is, this one thing. I need to specialize and be the best in it.
Yeah.
But what is that one thing? I don't know. And so when I did commerce, again, everyone's out here getting internships at the Big Four. I kept getting rejected. Like the Deloittes and the KPMGs and the PwCs and EYs of the world did not want me. And that pressure again made me feel really crap about myself because I'm like, maybe I'm not worthy here, right? I managed to land a summer internship at a mid-tier accounting firm.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know what I did wrong. Maybe I was part of whatever happened, but the manager really didn't like me. And so faced a bit of, discrimination in hindsight now. And I only knew that because it was during Christmas and one day I was sitting at my desk. No one was there. And one of the girls in a different team came up to me and they were like, Steph, why aren't you at the Christmas lunch with your team?
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, is there a Christmas lunch? I didn't know. Like I wasn't invited. They've all gone to this Christmas lunch, not told me about it and left me at the desk. But that experience was really traumatizing for me because I was like, what did I do wrong here? Like, why wasn't I think that I'm a very friendly person and curious, and I wanted to learn, and like, why was I not included in that? So that was one experience that was really traumatizing to me. And then when I decided to go into construction, I was working at like a landscaping company, and I just remember like something not feeling right. But
Mm.
again, because like my logical brain kicked in, and I was just like, Steph, you don't have any construction experience. You're here to learn. So just be quiet and
Yeah,
just be
just
an
carry
observer and
on.
just get on with it, you know?
Yeah.
But I remember like with all my accounting background and being really good with numbers and all of that sort of stuff, I just remember going through the invoices and, just like as a project administrator, that's what you do. And I'm like, something is not right here. The manager, the boss is telling me and telling the team that there's revenue coming in, we're making this much money, yada yada yada. But as I'm going through the numbers, I'm like, no, we're not. Like, you're not writing this correctly. You're not setting this out correctly. That's why
Mm.
it's being manipulated to look like there's revenue coming in, but there's not. And we owe subcontractors a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel right there, and I resigned and I went on holidays. And when I came back, the employees that were working there called me and they were like, Steph, you're so lucky that you left when you did, because we showed up on Monday. The office door is locked. The website is down. He
Oh.
hasn't paid us for a month.
Oh my God.
He hasn't paid our superannuation. He owes millions of dollars to these subcontractors. Like, he's gone. And I'm like, what? How can
What?
someone do this? Yeah. And I was
Oh
just shocked. I was
wow.
like, how can you owe, like, these subcontractors are not that it matters whether you're big or small, but they have families.
Yeah.
They have subcontractors that they need to pay. How can you do this? So that was the second experience. And then the third one, which again was, I would say it was like the final straw, was I worked at a fit out company, and it was again one of those moments where I felt like they were really connected in the industry. I didn't feel really valuable. My first building job, like, I should be grateful that someone even accepted someone like me who didn't have the credentials, the experience. Um, and again, like, I just saw so many dodgy things, like illegal phoenixing activity. I remember near the end of my 8-month stint there, like, the the wife was forging receipts to get goods released.
Oh my God.
And I didn't,
Wow.
and I remember this one time a cleaner came and was requesting for money, and she hid under the desk and was like, Steph, tell them that I'm not here.
Oh,
And I was
that's
like,
dodgy.
what? Like this. And I think for me, what upsets me the most and what makes me angry the most is that I had a set of values, but because I didn't feel qualified and I felt like my career was in the control of someone else's hands, that I had to forego my values and my morals to to keep my job.
Yeah.
And that's a guilt that I live with, like, every day. I know it's not, like, it's not a massive thing, like, I haven't killed anyone, but as someone who is driven by integrity and trust, like, and I know that I didn't know any better at the time, but that's actually what really bothered me. And
Yeah.
that's actually that was the biggest motivation for me to get my shit together, if you wanted to call that, and like equip myself with as much skills, technical skills, mindset skills, develop emotional intelligence, all that sort of stuff. So I never had to choose between my values and my career,
Yeah.
and like having something be in the control of not in control of my career, or not being in control. And so, like, I resonate, and I can empathize with so many juniors and young professionals out there who are in a similar position. But also, that's why I do what I do, because you do have the power and you do have the opportunity and the ability to shape and to be in control of your opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, it just, on so many levels. I mean, it's horrible,
Yeah.
and disgusting that you had to go through something like that. And I obviously really feel for you there. How do you take the positives from that?
Mm.
Like, you talked about this is what's got you to where you are, and you reflected on that, and it sounds like you're obviously very much reflective on it, going, well, you know, could I have spoken up? You're in a
Mm.
position where you do feel like you couldn't, and you obviously probably didn't or couldn't. You're so lucky to have a job. How do you take the positives out of those stories and then apply them to the work that you do now?
Mm. I think being positive is a skill,
Yeah,
truly, that you practice on because it's so easy to be the victim of those situations,
yeah,
right? But the positive that I can take out of it, or I would even say the catalyst and the inspiration, is that I knew I wanted to create environments where people never had to be in the position that I was. And that's the best thing that can come out of a really horrible situation
mm,
to anyone, right?
yeah,
Like, how incredible is it that you go through this and you either let it control you and break you, or you go, Matt, this is a lived experience. Like, I actually lived through that. I can recount the emotional trauma and experience of that. Like, I actually went through that.
mm,
It's not something that I plugged into ChatGPT and was like, here is, tell me a traumatizing situation,
yeah,
right? Like, it's actually a lived experience. And when people understand like these experiences is something that you physically and realistically lived through, it means that you can create such an authentic and powerful impact from it
mm.
and influence from it.
So,
So, yeah.
so anyone out there now listening, who might be going through something similar, what would be your message to them about how they might be able to navigate maybe a similar or something very, almost even the same sort of
Mm.
situation? Because I'm sure it's happening right now,
Oh, yeah.
um,
Yeah.
across multiple industries. What would be your key message to those people trying to deal with something like that?
I think a lot of people would disagree with what I'm saying right now, but the first thing is, what part can you do to change the situation?
Mm,
Forget about, oh, this boss was so mean and, I'm getting discriminated against and blah, 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 blah. Like, just park that to the side for a moment because it's not getting you anywhere. But what's an action that you can actually take
mm,
to change the situation? What's your part in this, right? Yeah, your situation is crap and it's shit and it makes you hate your job every day and makes you hate your day. So what can you do? You can quit. Okay, but I want a job. Like, what this is what I think people are going to say, because I've had so many people say the same thing to me. I hate my job, but I don't want to quit yet because I have bills to pay. I have a mortgage. I want something I want something lined up before I quit. Okay, what are you doing about it? Are you going out there and networking with everybody? Are you bringing that trauma to the conversations to get a job? Or are you actually going, hey, like, I saw this opportunity and here's where I think that I can plug in, and here's what I think you guys need. And like, do you have any opportunities, right?
mm.
Have you honestly done everything that you could to change your situation? That's honestly what I would say, because I have spoken to so many people who have experienced this and felt this, and they always go, oh, I really don't like, I hate my job and I'm not inspired. Oh, but it pays the bills, so I'll just, I'll
Yeah.
just suck it up. So that means that you have made an active choice to remain where you are, right? Does it mean you need to do more training? Does it mean you have to work more on your self development? Does it mean you have to go out there and, you know what I mean? Like, there are so many things that you can actually do, but people don't do it because it's easier to say, well, this is easier. It's not that bad. So
Yeah, it's not that bad.
it's not that bad. Like, there are
Yeah, I
people
hear that all the
dying and there are
time.
people starving out there. So I should be grateful for what I have. But the question is, do you want to force yourself to be grateful and appreciative, or do you actually truly want to be grateful and appreciative with with how you're living and what you get to have?
Mm, mm.
You know, and that was the biggest switch for me as well. It's like, yeah, I can be here and I can be in a job that I am really good at, but just because you're good at it doesn't mean that it's for you.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that there's like not a, an opportunity of a bigger impact that you can have for others.
Mm.
That was for me anyway. The
Yeah.
talk that I had to have for myself.
Yeah. That look in the mirror, I think, like you said before. So, sort of maybe a bit of a change of pace. Tell
Yeah.
me about how important you think building a personal brand is. A
Mm,
I talk a lot about personal branding, a lot of personal branding. I think it's very important. But
yeah.
what's your take on that, and how do you think a young professional in this day and age can build a personal brand? What are the maybe core pillars you think are you need to maybe stand out, particularly in what is
Mm.
very crowded marketplace?
Mm. I think everyone should be building a personal brand, or everyone should be aware of what their personal brand is. Everyone has a personal brand.
Mm,
And I also think that the narrative and the definition behind a personal brand has changed a lot over the years. So initially, everyone was like, you know, go online, talk about adding value and all of that sort of stuff, which it is in part, right? But one thing that I think a lot of young professionals get wrong about a personal brand is they go, how do I show up as this perfect, polished, professional self online where I'm showcasing my value, whether that's through like this program or this course that I've completed, or this networking event that I've attended, or this project that I'm on, right? And it's kind of ironic because when you do work for an organization, a lot of people are actually scared about developing their personal brand. A personal brand is not just what you show up online. Like, what is brand, right? Brand is what people associate you with,
mm,
what people know you as. And personal, what does that mean? It means it's got to be authentic,
yeah.
right? So how can you be authentic if you're trying to put a persona on? And that's why a lot of people who start building personal brands online, they do a few posts, you see it fizzles out after a
Yeah.
few months. Like, they're just like, oh, I don't want to read back on my post because it's so cringe, or like I don't want to the whole thing about taking selfies and engagement and impressions and all that sort of stuff. Like, none of that actually matters
Yeah.
if what you're doing is not authentic,
Yeah.
right? And so for anyone who is building a personal brand, it's not just online, but it's also like, how do people associate you in the workplace when they're working with you? Are you known as someone who just like, people bashes in person, you're screaming, yelling, being an absolute dickhead? Or do you treat people with respect and manners, please and thank you? Or you're being innovative and creative in conversations, optimistic? That's your personal brand. But people don't, and the personal brand is something that sticks with you forever, but it can also develop over time as well,
Mm,
because it's personal. It's, as you grow, of course it's going to naturally grow with you.
yeah.
So like, I think it's so important for people to be aware of what personal brand they want to bring, both online and in person. And it should be the same, because if you're being authentic, it doesn't matter what environment it is, you're just being you.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of young professionals are not aware of that, because they go, well, my personal brand is going to be shaped by the workplace that I work in.
Yeah.
They're going to define my personal brand. My personal brand is going to be defined by the role and how I'm going to be promoted and what seniority level I am in this workplace. What achievements have I stacked up? What credentials do I have under my belt?
Mm,
Yeah, that's a part of it, but also, who are you as a person?
yeah. 100%.
right? And then another layer to that is, don't just like, why then, if we're talking from a strategic point of view, personal brand, when people say add your insight, add your value, add your critical thinking, especially in this day and age of AI, where you can just type any question into ChatGPT and it will give you the answer, right? But one thing that AI will never be able to do is be the creative director,
Yep.
right? So you've got to be a creative director. And what I mean by that is through the unique value, through the unique insights that you're having in your environments. That's all, that's how you bring out the personal brand.
Mm, mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Tell me, and I'm interested now. Tell me about your personal brand. What
My
do you?
personal brand.
Yeah, yeah. Why not? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking a lot about it, and I think it's
Mm,
important because, you know, touched on a few different points. And I love that you're right around. It is only distinctive and individual, right? This isn't
mm.
about where you work or, your qualification. It's about what people think about you.
Yeah.
Tell us about your personal brand, or at least where you're trying to go with your own personal brand.
I love that. If I had to put into words and articulate what my brand is, like from a word perspective, trust, honesty, transparency, um, like I don't even want to use the word authentic, because every personal brand is authentic, but I just say it like it is. And I love
Yeah,
getting shit done.
yeah,
And I'm just fully transparent and direct. And some people are going to say, like maybe you're not as empathetic, but that's how I am. That's how I get things moving,
yeah,
right? But more than that, and I think this is a big piece of this as well, it's a feeling.
yeah,
When people are around me, it feels warm.
yeah,
It feels like you already know me
yeah,
and you've known me for ages. There's no ego. Uh, Very curious. Like I'm just here to learn and to uplift and to challenge people and to activate people to see what they could be doing and that it's possible for them. So that's
yeah,
just words, but more than that, it's a feeling. A
yeah,
personal brand, once it's like, there's some people where you go online and you go on their profile and you're like, there's a whole alignment here,
yeah,
not just in the words and the tactics of the post and all that sort of stuff, but there's a feeling here.
yeah, yeah.
Everything's aligning here.
I call it the
And that's
vibe.
what a really good personal brand is.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
the
a,
vibe.
yeah.
I love calling it the vibe. I mean, I have it at the
Yeah.
office, have it with a team.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is, but you're vibing, right? And I think
Yeah.
you're right. That feeling, you can put the words. There's so many words, right? There's always
Yes.
the words, but the feeling, you hit the nail on the head right there.
And you also said a word that was very interesting. And I think a lot of people are going to fall into this trap as well. So I want to highlight it. You said, what is the personal brand that you're trying to build?
Yeah,
Right. And the word trying, I'm going to emphasize on that, because it's not about trying to be anyone. It's just about being who you are.
mm. Yeah. I think I reflect on that in particular around
Mm.
trying and being, and yes, you're right. Where you are, what you are, who you are is so important. But I think a lot of people aspire, and they
Yeah.
aspire to, whether it's the layers of competency or the confidence that they can have to have the conversations or to be in the certain rooms or to have, whether or not it's the financial security or a title or a project or the experience under their belt. I think a
Mm.
lot of people aspire and think if I work on this, then I'm going to be able to build a brand because
Mm.
I don't really have what I would consider as a big brand maybe, right now.
Mm.
So I think my words trying is about, okay, what is a brand that you're aspiring to? Are you aspiring to be more confident? Are you aspiring
Mm.
to be more trustworthy? You're aspiring to have those, those conversations with people where you'll get the vibe. So I think a
Mm.
lot of people are working towards that. And I
Mm.
that's where I was sort of going with that because I
Yeah.
that's the everyone wants to improve. Like you said, development's a journey. You're never going to end that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of time as well, people say, "Oh, I'm trying to build this," and they get halfway through, and then they realize, well, that's actually not even me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm coming back to
Yeah.
something else, and maybe like your journey. You started doing some commerce stuff, then you went to engineering, and now you're in coaching. And if it wasn't for the engineering and the commerce, you might not have even gone to coaching. So
Yeah.
realizing that at some point in time you wanted the top four, but now that's not even anything to do with what your hopes and dreams and aspirations are, and your brand is going to always continue to evolve.
Yeah.
But you're always going to be pushing forward for something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely.
So on that, I wanted to ask you about Masters of Achievement. I've seen you
Yeah.
online. I've seen, things you're talking about. I'm very much a big fan. Always like
Thank
to like
you.
and comment when I see it. So tell me about that. Why? Like, why Masters of Achievement? What does it mean? What is it? Tell me more
Mm.
about it. Shameless plugs, totally acceptable.
Yeah, I honestly, since the last time we touched base, things have changed a lot for me. So, Master of Achievement was my coaching platform, but now I've also built my own business called Threefold Strategy as well. So, Master of Achievement, I also have a podcast called Master of Achievement, but what does Master of Achievement mean? What does achievement mean? Right.
Mm,
And I love to explore that because a lot of my journey has come from wanting to achieve and feeling this pressure of having to achieve something to feel as if I am valuable. But I think that whole journey of aiming for achievement, what is achievement to someone, is so unique for each person. And so when I coach, it's something that I love to, like, now even more, right? Like, what what makes someone fulfilled? What is important to this person? What are they trying to build, right? And how can we master that? How can we master their mind? How can we master their energy, so that when they are achieving, it doesn't feel hollow. It feels so aligned and full, right? So that's the coaching aspect of it. And then this whole thing we touched on in terms of brand, authentic brands, all of that sort of stuff. I realize that there's so many companies and there's so many brands out there who are too focused on the look and the feel, and they lack the foundation and the foundational element of why.
mm,
Why is this important? I look at all these construction companies and they're all just using words like, we prioritize innovation, diversity, inclusivity, uh, sustainability. It's like, cool. How are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Right? And I that's evolved over time for me because I realized if we want to breed or if we want to cultivate really great leaders and we want companies, like really great companies, to thrive authentically, right? They need to understand what their why is. And if they don't, and they get caught up in this whole like, oh well, this company is talking about sustainability and this is a new trend, let me get on this, right? We're not being authentic. And if we're not being
mm,
authentic, you can't you can't create a great culture. You're not going to retain incredible talent,
mm, mm.
right? Like if you don't know where you're going, how are the people who are working under you know how they can build and help and collaborate with you? And
Yeah.
so threefold strategy also for me is like helping founders, really understand like brand strategy, but brand strategy in a super authentic way. The company's got to be purpose led. That is the main thing. Like, what is the bigger purpose here? What's the bigger mission?
Yeah.
If it's just profit, I'm not the person to work for you or with
Haha,
you,
sure.
right? But I want to work with people who are purpose led, companies that are purpose led. Like, what's the bigger mission here? What are we trying to do here?
Mm,
And really truly bringing out that authenticity piece, that genuine piece. And then as we build that strong foundation, then we talk about the marketing. How is that pitched, or how is that presented? How are we positioned in the market? But building that trust is really important, especially in this day and age where there's like so much crap going on, even online. Like, I don't know what's real AI or fake or whatever anymore. Like, my mother-in-law sent me this reel of some, I don't know, it was like clearly AI, but it was Dr. Mike talking about pets and how they shouldn't drink ice water. And I was like, pretty sure this is
What?
misinformation. Like, I think
Yeah.
this is AI, right?
Yeah.
But especially in the market where everything feels so saturated,
Yeah.
right? And we go back to that when everything feels so saturated, and it's so easy to say like, oh, I'm not winning work because we're so saturated. But what does that mean then? If the market continues to be saturated, which it will be, how are you going to differentiate yourself?
Mm.
Right? And it's bringing out that authenticity piece, because then you create ecosystems of people who attract and align with your brand, your values, what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I just think ultimately, like, if you're working with people who align with you, if you're doing it from a really genuine place where you're not having to compromise your values or your ethics or morals, like, and you're helping clients and serving them, like, how incredible is that?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. Purpose is everything, and I find that people are purpose driven are usually the ones that do have good profit.
Mm,
There is alignment with clients. There is alignment with their own staff or employees. So, you know, after you've gone through this now, what do you pitch? Not even pitching, but how do you say to someone, whether or not they're a company or a professional, like how do you stand out? I mean, how do you stand out? Is it, in my view, very quickly, do you just have
mm,
an opinion? I find most of the
yeah.
time, I find people stand out when they actually go, actually, you know what? No, I don't like that because of these reasons. And I go, well, that's great. I want to
Mm,
hear your opinion, and I think that helps stand out. How do you think
mm.
people and companies can just stand out of what is a saturated market full of AI slop?
I love that. The way I approach it, and at the end of the day, why do we create businesses, right? We create a business because, or why would someone pay for you and pay for your service? Because you're adding some kind of value to them,
Mm, mm.
right? And so, exactly what you just said, where you're going, hey, actually, I've realized, right? Or I noticed that you're doing it in this way, but have you thought about doing it in this way,
Yeah.
right? What you're doing there is planting a seed. You're innovating, because what tends to happen in companies is, over time, when they've been doing it for so long, everyone starts to get this herd mentality. This is the way we've always been doing it, right? And imagine if you have this idea or this thought that could grow the business, that could change the business. Of course, if it aligns with their goals, right?
Mm, mm.
And their visions. Would you not want to share that?
Yeah.
If it could really help someone, and if it could really help expand and amplify their mission, like, would you not want to share that? And if you do share it and it's wrong, then at least you guys can both ideate and collaborate and move on from there. But that's how I see companies being able to add value. And I agree, so many people are so scared to have an opinion, but it's not an opinion if what you're doing is coming from a place of serving and trying to create value.
Mm. Yeah, creating value. You know, uh, I think we've used the word value in so many contexts, from values, understanding your value, and then even creating value.
Mm,
Yeah, me, value engineering is one of our key and core tenets, at least at Vinculum. Value engineering is like number one. We want to create value in everything we do.
mm,
And I
mhm,
think that in itself is the value that you can bring, not just your
mm.
own, but creating value. I just wanted to leave on maybe just, one final piece is, if there's just, something key, something that you want to put out there, something that you feel like is maybe your opinion, if it's the market, state of play, professional growth, mentoring, some piece of advice, just anything that you want to just put out there to the universe, what would that be?
If you have that calling or that thought of, I want to do more, but I don't know what it is, allow yourself to explore it. You're not weird. You're not different. Well, you are different because you had that thought, but there's nothing wrong with you. And you might be in an environment where no one's thinking that, but it doesn't mean that you didn't have it for a reason. Explore it.
Yeah, I tell you, as the life of an entrepreneur and having a gazillion ideas in every other day and all the rest of it,
Yeah.
yeah, that is so important. Just to believe in yourself and carry on and
Mm,
write it down and save it for a rainy day. You never know; it might just be your next big break.
yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Stephanie Nguyen, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really enjoyed the chat. I've got so many notes. I've got all these ideas coming off the back of this. And it's funny how just a conversation allows the mind to wander.
Yes,
And,
yeah.
obviously, wish you all the best. Can't wait to see what you do with Master of Achievement and Threefold and carry on. Fight the
Thank you
good
so
fight.
much.
And yeah, look forward
Thank
to
you.
seeing
Thank
it.
you for having me here, and also for you to create this space for people to think bigger than what they think is possible right now. And it's really important. So I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime.